Hello everyone and welcome to the final exam discussion and study sheet video. This is going to be a quick little video here. I have recently posted or will post directly after this video a study sheet that's similar to the one that we used for the midterm exam. The idea here is that I'm posting and sort of giving you the topics that are going to be covered in the final exam in some fashion. Last time with the midterm exam, I had this, I think, as just sort of a list. What I've done this time is just have it as a discussion. You are welcome to use it. You're not required to use it, but I think it's the sort of face-to-face equivalent of studying together. I would hope, and I often say this when I post things as discussions like this, that it has kind of the Wikipedia effect. With that, what I mean is that the sort of masses hopefully correct each other, have the most accurate information the more people are involved. I'm leaving it up to you to be involved as much and as little as you'd like to, but these are the topics. Again, last time at the midterm we had kind of a list. I just sort of did a different version of it here with the discussion. You can post something and say, hey, I don't quite understand this topic. Please email me if you want me to clarify something on the discussion. But I'm giving you sort of the vague topics. I'm not going to go over exactly what I need for these. This is up for you to study. I'm going in reverse order, mainly because the things at the bottom are things that are from the beginning of the semester that really can't be avoided in terms of discussing artworks towards the second half of the semester. There are less sort of specific things in relation to the first portion of the semester, but you'll see things like form and content. We really can't avoid using, talking about, etc. In relation to stuff later in the semester, so we need to sort of bring it with us. I'll sort of mention where things are in terms of if stuff came from the beginning of the semester or later in the semester. So I'm just going to go through these. I have kind of dashes in spots where I'm just sort of defining or asking what might be expected in relation to this. So form and content, very basic idea. Define both terms. What is form? What is content? Apply it towards artwork. I may be giving you artwork that is from later in the semester in defining its form, what it looks like, and then content, what it's about. So know those terms, be able to do that with a work of art. Iconography, what is it? Be able to recognize it, be able to recognize that it's in a work of art. Medium, what is medium? And be able to describe it in artwork. There might be something from later in the semester, from Impressionism, from Fauvism, that you might be able to sort of, or you might have to be able to describe the medium in relation to those works of art. The visual elements and composition. So the visual elements, you don't have to sort of define every single visual element. There's tons of visual elements, line, shape, texture, mass, volume, those types of things. You should note those and note those in relation to potentially using to describe bodies of work or artwork later in the semester. With that, you might just be able to sort of, note the line. A lot of you have been doing that in different discussions, etc. So, knowing what some of these basic ones are, line, shape, textural elements, as well as composition, sort of how something is composed. Evaluating art with words. We've done this with the papers. You should have this down by now. This is on page 92. There are 3 steps to that process. You might have to do a sort of quick version of that. Okay, this is where that sort of old stuff stops. Okay, and this is where we get into sort of second half of the semester things. Classical Greece, excuse me. The importance of the individual, what classical sculpture might have looked like. Roman art, characteristics of Roman art. These two sort of went together in terms of the readings in the chapter. Gothic architecture, characteristics of Gothic architecture. What did it look like? Why did it look like that? There's a lot sort of wrapped up in this characteristics, which you'll see on several bullet points. The Renaissance. This is a very big topic, how humanism was important to the Renaissance, the Medici family. We did a whole discussion on that. Renaissance is a reference to what? It's a reference to a particular other time period. Why is that a reference, and what's sort of embodied in that? Artists that represent the High Renaissance. That's a handful of artists that should be noted. David, the sculpture, the importance of this work, characteristics of that work, what does it embody? Veneration, I just got done grading these. Again, I'm going through those older discussions. Be able to identify and describe this in an artwork. Characteristics of Islamic art. There's a few things in relation to that that you should be able to point out. Impressionism, characteristics of Impressionism. What did it look like? Why did it look like that? Prominent artists in the Impressionist movement. This is where we get into a lot of, movements or sort of genres of art being very, very quick. Neoclassicism, classical versus romanticism, differences between the two, ability to identify one over the other. These look very different. They had different purposes. Realism, again, characteristics of and identify examples. This was a very particular type of painting and artwork that sort of meant to do something very specific. Cubism, characteristics of, examples of, prominent artists. There's two prominent artists in relation to Cubism. If you sort of study a section like this, you should be able to easily identify. Dada and Surrealism, you had a discussion on this, the characteristics of, and what in particular this was a reaction to. Abstract Expressionism, again, characteristics of prominent artists. I might add sort of techniques to this. This was a very particular technique and new type of painting. Pop art, prominent artists, and again, characteristics of. I'm sort of sick of saying characteristics of, but that sort of identifies very important aspects of each of these movements. Again, when we get into this last part, pop art, abstract expressionism, Dada, surrealism, cubism, realism, these are all much quicker sort of genres of art in terms of general art history. You should be reviewing both the notes from previous discussions as well as the book, and you will be able to obviously look at your notes in your book during the exam, as this is online, but please note that it's not going to be sort of go to page 320 and define a term straight from the book. You're going to have to sort of understand potentially what a genre of artwork looks like. For instance, abstract expressionism, that may not be an artwork from the book. You should be able to understand the characteristics of that movement and be able to identify a work of art from that movement that might not be in the book. Okay, the idea here is that you're sort of taking what you've known and studied from, and I'm just using the abstract expressionism as an example, and apply it to sort of seeing and understanding a work of art that has the characteristics of abstract expressionism and sort of speaks to the goals of that movement. Okay, so know these topics and be ready to identify and apply them to things that maybe we haven't quite seen yet. It's not a trick. I'm not trying to make it difficult. I'm trying to make sure we can sort of apply what we know to imagery that lives outside of the book, because the book only contains X amount in relation to this type of imagery. Okay. Again, this is a discussion. Please use it as such. I would hope that I see some discussion on here. If you're doing this sort of quietly off to the side by yourself, that's fine as well, but I would think that sort of sharing this information or your view on things is going to be further clarified if other students see it and you again get clarification, etc. I'm happy to pop in. I won't unless asked, but please email me if you want me to clarify a particular point that you have posted on the discussion. Again, please take a look at the last week here, week I guess 16 sheet. It's just going to remind you of your papers, remind you of the final exam time, and email me with any questions. But you should see the final exam posted by this coming Monday, which is what is it? I believe it's the 18th. No, it is not the 18th. It is, well, whatever I have posted there. It should be I'm looking at the date here, it should be the 14th. It will be posted on the 14th. Apologies for that. Getting all the dates mixed up with different final exams I have. But it will be posted on the 14th, and you will have till that Friday to complete it. Again, any questions, email me. I'm finishing up slowly but surely grading last couple quizzes and discussions, and you should see those grades posted very soon.